Chairete Ophiloi, my name is Dr. David Sinoi, and I want to share with you a brief Greek lesson of some things I have learned from my study that you can incorporate into your own study of Greek to improve your enjoyment of this beautiful and powerful language. Today's lesson comes from Matthew chapter 2, verse 7, and here's the Greek. Τότε Herodes λάθρα καλέσας τους μάγους εκρύμπωσεν παρ αυτόν των χρόνων του φαινομένου αστερός. Now what does this mean? Well, here's just a quick translation. Then Herod, when he had secretly called together the Magi, he questioned them closely as to the time of the star's appearance. Now I'm just translating that without having looked at any English, so we can maybe clean it up later if you want to. I want to focus on a couple of items here in the Greek. First of all, lathra. Now this adverb lathra means secretly or quietly, without anybody's notice. It comes from the verb lanthano. See that? Lanthano. The third principal part of which is elathon. So you can see the lath stem, the lambda alpha theta. We take the epsilon off the augment and we have lath. Now this adverb, lathra, is formed on that. So it means to do something without anyone else's awareness. It's modifying the participle kalesas. Now what is a participle? A participle is a verbal adjective. And adverbs can modify adjectives. It's no problem, right? We can say someone is smart. That's an adjective. We can say they are quite smart. That's an adverb modifying an adjective. So he called secretly together, and whom did he call? Tous magus, the Magi. Now this aorist participle shows relative, not absolute time. So it takes place before the time of the main verb. Now the main verb in this verse is ekribosen. Ekribosen. How do we know it's tense? It's got an augment and it's got a sigma. The first principal part of the present stem of this verb ekribosen is akribao. Akribao. And what does it mean? It means to search out carefully. In fact, the Liddell Scott and Jones lexicon cites this very passage, Matthew 2:7, and says that it means to inquire carefully of. Now let's remember that because in just a moment I'm going to compare two Latin translations to see how this works. So the LSJ cites it as inquire carefully of, and the last part in this sentence is tu phainomenu asteros. He inquired carefully paroton from them as to the time ton chronon tu phainomenu asteros. So what kind of a participle is tu phainomenu? Well, while kalesas was a circumstantial participle providing adverbial modification, tu phainomenu is an attributive participle because it has the definite article. See? Tu phainomenu. And therefore it is adjectival modification. What kind of a star is it? It's a star which had been seen. Tu phainomenu. It had been noticed. Now we're talking about this Herod, Herod the Great, right here, the one who was alive at the time of Christ's birth, the one who was famous for the so-called slaughter of the innocents. That is, when he gave the command that all of the newborn males under a certain age in this area would be put to death. Now before we wrap up, let's look at just a couple of Latin translations because I think this is quite interesting. The first one is one of my favorite exegetes, a man named Theodore Beza. He was a French Reformed Protestant, and he gave us 6 different editions of his translation of the New Testament. So from the 1598 edition, this is what he says. He says, Tum Herodes clam vocatis magus exquisivit ab eis quotempora stella apardruisset. Then Herod secretly. So notice that Beza translates lathra, the adverb, using clam, secretly. Nice translation, Beza. Then he uses vocatis magus. He uses vocatis magis, I should say, vocatis magis. When the Magi, that's magis, had been called together, vocatis. So Beza uses, quite naturally, what's called an ablative absolute to render the Greek participle kalesas tous magus. Clever. And then he uses the verb exquisivit. Now I wanted you to remember ekribosen because exquisivit means to seek to find out, as does ekribosen. He sought to find out from them at what time the star had appeared. I said we should notice this because I want to compare this finally to the Vulgate, that is to Jerome's translation of the Bible. You can see it right here. Tunc Herodes clam vocatis magis diligenter didicit ab eis tempus stellae quae apardruit eis. So one difference is that Jerome uses didicit, diligenter didicit, which means he carefully learned Beza uses what I would argue is a better translation, exquisivit. He tried to find out exquisivit, which is a very close rendering, it seems to me, of the Greek ekribosen. So if you liked this lesson, if you learned something about Greek, maybe a little bit of Latin, then I'd like you to do two things, please. First, like and subscribe, click the bell so you will get notified of when I release new free lessons on Greek and Latin, of course. The second thing I'd like you to do is please go to MossMethod.com and check out my program, my course. I have developed a way for you to go from neophyte to erudite. You can go from knowing little or nothing about Greek to having the kind of confidence and ability that I enjoy because of years of study and many good teachers. I can show you all the shortcuts that I've learned over the years. I can guide you along, be your psychopampos, your soul guide, to take you down into the beautiful depths of Greek and come back with more confidence and ability. So check out my course, MossMethod.com, and also, finally, if you sign up, you get to participate in our office hours. So once a week, I meet on Zoom for an hour with all the Moss Method students, and we talk about Homer and Plato and Aristotle and Aeschylus, Aristophanes, and of course, the New Testament. So please consider joining us. Check out MossMethod.com. Thank you very much.